Cowabunga dudes, time to join me back once again for one of these reviews for Magic the Gathering. That is right. We're coming back on in, so good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Yes, more Ninja Turtles. There's going to be a little bit more, as you can probably imagine. We have the Commander decks. I'm still waiting on my collector booster boxes there. There's been a little bit of trouble with the shipping on those, so I'm hoping to be able to get them on in soon. So that's why you're probably seeing these a little bit more out of order than I usually do. But for some strange reason, the secret lair for Ninja Turtles arrived very early. It's the earliest that I've ever seen a secret lair come up. Now, I think that it's partially due to it not selling out absolutely immediately, because I remember getting into the queue for this on the Monday that it had premiered, and I was like, only a 5-minute wait in line, that's pretty good. And then I would be checking up each day, and none of these went to a, what would you call it there? None of these were on a sold out. None of these were on low. And I was like, oh, that's very strange. And then 4 days later on the Friday, I see that they were removed. Now, I don't know if someone bought a whole lot of them or whatnot. Some of them did end up getting sold out, but I never saw them on the low, low stock, which I don't know if they just pulled them. I imagine that they wouldn't, but it just seems a little bit strange that that would be the case. But because of that, I ended up getting these shipped out to me within a week. And honestly, that's great. I like being able to get them really fast like that and being able to get them in. You'll see there's going to be a Fallout Secret Lair that I ended up getting, and that took basically 2 months to be able to ship and get here, whereas this one did it in a week. So it's just like, I guess it's just in that vein of if something isn't quite as popular, they're just going to start shipping the things out when they're able to. So we're going to start off here with a little bit of the Stan Sakai, who is the creator of not anything TMNT related, but a different anthropomorphized critter called, it was like Usagi Yojimbo or something like that. Yojimbo was a samurai that existed back in the Edo period, I believe. You actually see Yojimbo in Final Fantasy media content there, because I believe that they showed up as one of the summons for Yuna. But and Usagi means rabbit in Japanese. But yeah, so he made that, and Usagi Yojimbo ended up showing up in some TMNT related stuff, but it wasn't made for it. It's not a spin-off of it. It was just another property where, hey, here's anthropomorphized animals, let's stick them together. So that's a little bit of the history there. So it kind of makes sense of, if it's all relatively in there together, why not do it? Oh, it's not Yojimbo, it's Miyamoto Usagi. Yojimbo might have been the name of the comic then. But yeah, here we go. A little bit of Miyamoto Usagi. Miyamoto being considered one of the greatest swordsmen of all times. Miyamoto Musashi. Kind of been told that was relatively unrivaled. Had a big, potentially fake confrontation with Sasaki Kojiro. But it's hard to be able to tell if that was the case, because we just have a being told that it happened, but we don't have any other evidence other than hearsay that it happened. So, starting off with the titular character, Miyamoto Usagi, is going to be a copy of Balin the Haymaker, so going to a little bit of Bloomborough action, which I believe Balin might have been one of the commanders, because it would have been this what is it, Bant colors there, or Naya, that's what it is, white, green, and red there. So one of each of those for a 4/3 legendary rabbit warrior with tap 2 untapped tokens you control to add 1 mana of any color, tap 3 untapped tokens you control to draw a card, or tap 4 untapped creatures you control to put 3 +1/+1 counters on Miyamoto Usagi. He gains trample until end of turn. So you're just essentially getting a lot of tokens out there to either produce some extra mana, whether they're foods, whether they're creatures, clues, whatnot. You can use them for mana. You can use them to draw some extra cards, which is also pretty good. You could use them to get more of a Voltron strategy, tap 4 of them and make this guy even bigger, give them trample. I mean, 3 tokens and that, not 3 tokens, 4 tokens that you tap and you get 3 +1/+1s. You make it a 7/6 with trample. Can be pretty dangerous. Though I don't think that Balin was considered one of the greatest of the commanders. I think Miss Bumbleflower was. But it kind of makes sense. Balin being a rabbit warrior themselves, making Miyamoto Usagi kind of their counterpart. Up next, we're going to have a little bit of Katsuichi's piece, which is going to be a copy of Felidar Retreat, which is going to be 3 and a white for an enchantment that has landfall. So land comes in, then you get one of these 2 effects. You can either create a 2/2 white cat beast creature token, or you can put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. They gain vigilance until end of turn. So kind of what it has here is if you have a small board, then when you have the land comes in, you can make the cat creature token. However, if you're already starting to get a little bit of a wider board, have a land come in and be putting, 5+ +1/+1 counters out onto things, and then they gain vigilance. So you can, if they're already big enough, you can hold them back to attack as well. Well, you can attack and you can hold them back to block. So it's for a go wide board type of strategy, to be able to just incorporate a little bit of your landfall action, it is pretty nice. Up next, we're going to have a little bit of Master of Ceremonies. Now, I believe that this was a card that has had only 1 printing. Now, I don't exactly remember. I think it was in a Commander precon for New Capenna. And so this being, if I'm correct, the first reprinting that it's had, it's not an inexpensive one of these reprints there. So we'll certainly take that. 3 and a white for a 3/4 Rhino Druid. Beginning of your upkeep, each opponent chooses money, friends, or secrets. For each player who chose money, you and that player each create a treasure token. For each player who chose friends, you and that player create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. For each player who chose secrets, you and that player each draw a card. So they all get 1 benefit there in a commander game, while you are potentially getting 3, maximum of 3. Because, I mean, if you have less opponents, not quite as good, but potentially getting 3 treasures, 3 bodies, 3 cards, combination of anyone. Now, the thing is, the opponents are going to pick the option that's best for them, but you just get a whole bunch of whatever. It's just how it works out. So yeah, I think while it is something that gives your opponents the choice, it is still a very good card, because it gives you a lot more benefits. And because it is providing benefits to everybody, they might be a little bit less likely to remove this from the field, because they might want to draw that extra card. They might want that extra treasure. They might need that blocker to survive. So it could be a very good one to be able to keep out on the battlefield. All right, next up, we're going to have a little bit of Second Harvest. I imagine that this wolf or fox character is probably the main nemesis of Miyamoto Usagi. But even though they're fighting, this is part of Second Harvest, which I'm not sure. I would have probably used a different artwork instead of fighting to depict this. A little bit more field, like 2 and 2 green for an instant. For each token you control, create a token that's a copy of that permanent. So you have a, 10 clues out on the tape, out on the field there, well, now you got 20 clues and whatnot. But I mean, if you got a way for, I don't know, something like Academy Manufacturer, and you've already created a whole bunch of stuff, and then you're like, oh yes, I'm going to create a copy of this token. And it's like, well, because you're creating a clue, also create a food and a treasure type of deal, or just whenever you have a token comes in that you double the amount of tokens that come in, it makes it even better. But yeah, Second Harvest, it's not the most amazing, but you're in a deck with a lot of tokens, doubling up on them, it's kind of a good one there. So, certainly we'll take it for those. And the last of the main cards in here, but not for the bonus sheet cards, is going to be the Grass Cutting Sword. What is it? Probably something like Kusa Giri or something like that. Because I think Kusa means grass, Giri means cut or kill, something like that. But this is going to be a copy of Sun Forger, which is going to be 3 mana for an artifact equipment, which has equipped creature gets equips for 3, and equipped creature gets +4/+0, and you can pay red and a white to unattach this equipment, and you search your library for a red or white instant card with mana value 4 or less, and cast that card without paying its mana cost, then you shuffle your deck. So, if you need something that helps you out with some, I don't know, you need to get rid of something, well, you can remove this to get that card to help you out with it. Maybe you need to ramp a little bit and use like some catch-up ramp with white, red to get some removal, or maybe even a finisher that you need. But as long as it's 4 mana or less. Not sure if these are going to be the same, but we're going to strip both of these off just in case. But actually, just looking at it there, having a little bit of, I guess I should comment on this. The grass cutting sword that was in Japanese mythology came, I believe, from the neck of Yamato no Orochi, which was an 8-headed Hydra dragon god that existed, and when it was slain, in its neck was a sword that was of unparalleled power. So I believe that there might have also been a reference to that in Naruto with Orochimaru or something like that. But it is, it's got some interesting backstory to it, and I like that they have some sort of Hydra on there to indicate its heritage as well. And yep, it's going to be the same one. It's going to be a big score. One of my favorite cards, just because I think you get a lot from it, and to kind of put yourself a little bit ahead on future turns. But I very much like to be able to replicate and duplicate spells. So being able to duplicate this at just the cost of 1 card discarded, and you get a whole lot back is very, very nice. So 3 in a red, instant as an additional cost to cast a spell. You discard a card, and then you draw 2 cards, and you create 2 treasure tokens. Honestly, it's not the most amazing or out there card. It's not going to win games. I just think it's really nice to be saying, hey, I'm going to be, it replaces itself with the drawing 2 cards because you discarded 1, and use this. So you're not down any cards, and then you just get additional 2 treasures. It's just a fun little card there. And that one has a little bit of a, I guess, a fox that's stealing something. I don't know these comics. I don't know TMNT very well, so let alone Miyamoto Usagi, and Usagi Yojimbo. So it's not anything that I have a lot of experience with, so I wouldn't be able to tell you what those characters are. Now, going on from one comic to another, we have The Last Ronin, which was if I remember correctly, was a series where all but one of the turtles had been killed, and then the last one, the final one, that's why it's Last Ronin. Ronin being a samurai that does not have a master, so it's just out on its own, trying to survive and protect itself, whereas, a samurai would have some sort of backing to them. So, you know, I guess it sounds a little bit more like the Batman-esque vigilante, but they do have all of the weapons, and I think that it was supposed to be some big reveal of which of the turtles that it ended up actually being. But again, I don't know much about TMNT lore, so I don't know who is the last Ronin. It could have been any of them there. But I was the last of my clan, masterless Ronin, and it was up to me to restore our family's honor. So I would imagine that, hey, you know, we've got 3 of the 4 Ninja Turtles having been killed would have probably been a bit more of a darker storyline to go through. So that's the only thing that I could think of with it, is that, you know, I mean, it certainly, from the cover art that we had, it definitely implied some sort of darker undertones with that card art that was on the outside of it there, whereas something like the Miyamoto Usagi one has a lot more colors into it. It's a lot more colorful, not quite as serious with itself. But we're going to start off with a little bit of Settle the Wreckage, which is going to be 2 and double white for an instant, with exile all attacking creatures target player controls. That player may search their library for that many basic lands, put those cards onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. So it's that sort of white removal, similar to Swords to Plowshares, Path to Exile, where you are getting rid of stuff, but you replace it as well. So it's a little bit lesser cost, but you do end up getting kind of something from it there, or your opponents get something from it. And it does look like we've got a little bit of Casey Jones, if I remember that's the name of him there, with the last Ronin, just kind of going through, and he's got some sort of mask in his hand. I don't know. It doesn't look like it's his mask since he's wearing a hockey mask, but it could be like a Shredder mask or an Utron mask, something like that. But yeah, it's a nifty little one there, especially if you're going up against a multicolored deck. The more colors that they have, the less likely they are to be running a whole bunch of basics. So you get rid of all of their stuff, and they might not have enough basics to be able to replace their creatures, and they might not ramp all that much. So I think it's a very good combat trick of trying to get rid of everything. Gets around hexproof, gets around ward. You know, it's not targeting anything. But it's only one player that gets hit with it. So that's the one thing that you have to be mindful of, is you're either going to make an enemy or, you know, you're going to make someone wide open. We're also going to get a little bit of Mental Misstep. Now, I do know that there was a version of this in one of the previous Secret Lairs that was pretty big, and I think that this is a card that is big in formats that use older cards there, ones where mana cost 1 and 2 are basically all you want to do, and Mental Misstep being only 1 blue Phyrexian mana, you don't need any mana to play it. So if it's in your hand on the first, when you initially draw, and your opponent tries to put down a 1 mana card on their first turn, you can say, nah, pay 2 life, I'm going to counter it, because it's an instant that counters target spell with a mana value of 1. So it looks like down here we had 2 swords for Leonardo. Here's looking like a bow staff for Donatello. I'm not entirely sure why this artwork would be considered Mental Misstep. I imagine that these are different, either famous scenes from the comic, or are the cover arts for some of the last Ronin volumes. But I do think it's a very pretty one. Has the sun, kind of like the morning sun. You've got the Shinto gate, Mon, I think it is, and it looks a little bit like a graveyard here, you know, like the headstones. All in all, I think it's a very beautiful card, and it's a very good card there. So a nice little addition to be able to bring in, probably is going to give a little bit of value to this particular set as well. Next up, we are going to have Splinter, Vengeful Sensei, who is going to be a copy of Ink Eye, Servant of Oni. a good old classic from Kamigawa, 4 and double black for a legendary Rat Ninja 5/4. And because it's a ninja, it's got to have its ninjutsu cost. Ninjutsu out for 3 and double black. If you have a creature that is unblocked, then you can pay the cost and return the attacking creature to your hand and put this out tapped and attacking, and it hits your opponent because they've already declared blockers. And whenever Splinter deals combat damage to a player, you may put target creature from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So you get to reanimate the best thing from their graveyard, which is always nice. And for a little bit of extra protection, it's got 1 and a black to regenerate it. So you've got the possibility of making sure that it doesn't die. So I imagine that, Splinter, just like the last Ronin, this is either Splinter putting up a final fight in maybe one of the earlier ones, or Splinter is able to survive and is training up the last of the Ronin here to be able to survive through all of the ordeals that they're going to have to go to since all of their brothers are dead. But yeah, getting another version of Ink Eyes is very nice. Be able to put it in my low-powered Yuriko, because I don't think I had an Ink Eyes prior to this, or maybe I got one in a mystery booster if it's available there, but I know it didn't have a lot of printing, so it's nice to be able to get another version of it. And we're also going to get a little bit of Anger. Now, I don't know if this is Raphael or if it's the last Ronin, or if the last Ronin is Raphael, maybe both, but I mean, it's got red bandana and it's got Sai, so I don't see any other weapons on it there, so that's why I'm unsure. Again, I don't know the plot of it, so this could be a scene where Raphael is going in and sacrificing himself or getting too angry and attacking. But Anger, another very, very good one, especially for decks that want to be very aggressive. It's 3 in a red. It's a 2/2 incarnation that has haste. But the thing that people like with it is, as long as this card is in your graveyard and you control a mountain, creatures you control have haste. So you're playing a red deck, it's going to be easy for you to get a mountain on the field. And just being able to give everything haste, everything that comes in. So a lot of things that have a battle trigger, they're trying to deal combat. Needing to wait a turn is not always the best thing. So being able to have them have haste and you can just attack right away, yeah, pretty darn good. I think that it's a very nice artwork there. You've got, it looks like Raphael having gotten hit by shuriken and bows all over the place, and you've got blood that's running down the card there and sort of making a little bit of a curtain there. It's probably very sad, but I think it's a very cool artwork. Up next, we are going to have, it looks like, the artwork on the front of the that we saw on the front of the little pack there. Chord of Calling. Looks like we have, the last Ronin having all of the different weapons there. I see Leonardo there. I see Donatello in the bottom left, Raphael in the top left there, and it looks like Casey. So, my guess would be last Ronin is probably Michelangelo, which is honestly very sad with how much of a fun-loving and joyful character that he is, to make him the last Ronin, which I think that all of his brothers would be trying to protect him, because it looks like that's Casey Jones up in the top right. So if that's true, that's a little bit sad, but I think people would be interested in that. So this is going to be an instant from classic Ravnica that is going to have Convoke, so you can tap creatures you control to lessen the cost of this spell by either 1 mana or 1 colored mana of the colors that it produces. Now, green is the only one that really means anything in this, but you can search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, and you put it on the battlefield and you shuffle. So maybe you've got a combo piece that you need to get. Well, this is a way to do it, or maybe you just want a big creature there to help out, or you know, there's something that would be really, really good for a creature at that time that gets rid of something or provides some sort of benefit that you need, you know, then that's going to be a way to do it. Yeah, it's been a decent one there. I don't think that there are ways to consistently get really, really high mana in probably quick CDH games, so I don't think I'd see it there. But, you know, I don't have necessarily Court of Callings myself, so being able to get some is nice. And our final card in these, our bonus cards, are going to be Regrowth. Okay, I don't recognize any of these guys, so I don't know if these are future Ninja Turtles, if these are another version of them, some sort of story after Last Ronin. Don't know, but we've got 1 and a green for a sorcery that returns target card from your graveyard to your hand there, so just a little bit of recursion, not directly onto the battlefield, into your hand. So I'm, you know, if it's got a cast trigger, that's really nice, just because if it just went straight back to the battlefield, then it wouldn't necessarily get a cast trigger on it. But yeah, very nice. Certainly we'll take that. The Anger is really nice. Court of Calling is really nice. Settled Wreckage, you know, mass removal for attacking creatures. Obviously, Mental Misstep is the best one that is from there. Next up, we're going to have a little bit of Kevin Eastman, one of the co-creators of the Ninja Turtles. So we are going to be getting in and seeing some of his artwork. Now, these are going to be inks, so there's not going to be any colors on them, but you know, you gotta make your rough drawing, and then you've got to ink them before you start coloring them in. So this is kind of what would be before the colors, because hey, in just a moment we're going to have the colors right afterwards and just sort of compare and contrast how they look between the two, see if maybe one of them looks cooler than the other. Now, I personally prefer the inks of Venom as opposed to the colors, but we'll have to see how this goes. First up, we're going to have a little bit of Loxodon Gatekeeper. Now, the first thing that I see about this is, compared to the Venom ones, there's a lot more detail in this. Like the Venom ones, they had some environmental stuff, but nothing to this extent. So honestly, I think that this is great artwork. Loxodon Gatekeeper, 2 in double white, 2/3 Elephant Soldier. Artifacts, creatures, and lands your opponent's control enter tapped. That's pretty gnarly because it's a blind obedience effect on a creature, having things that your opponents might want to do, like use their lands to cast something, or, you know, have an artifact that they can, you know, as a mana rock to tap for land, tap for mana, or a creature to block or use its ability. I mean, even if they've got haste, if they're tapped when they come in, they can't do anything. They can't block, they can't attack. They got a tap ability, they can't do that. Yeah, it's a little bit of an oppressive piece there, and you've got an intimidating looking elephant creature there, holding some sort of giant halberd, which is very, very nice. I like me some pole arms. Next, we're probably going to have the best card of this set here, and another beautiful artwork with some very detailed backgrounds on it. You've got Sakashima Student, 2 in double blue for a 0/0 human ninja with ninjutsu, 1 in a blue. So very similarly, you attack in, one of your creatures get by unblocked. You can pay 1 in a blue to have this enter tapped and attacking. But you may have this creature enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it's a ninja in addition to its other creature types. Now, the one thing is that it doesn't say that it maintains its name. It can enter as a copy, which you don't want to have it enter not as a copy because it's a 0/0, but because you can have it enter as a copy of any creature. If you had it enter as a legendary creature, unfortunately, it doesn't say it keeps the name Sakashima Student, so it would enter exactly as a copy with the exact name, so you'd have to legend rule one of your things out. Except if it was of course, on your opponent's battlefield, then it doesn't really matter. But, you know, just in addition to its other creature types, so you get some sort of ninja tribal going on, yeah, then it's going to work on out. But very, very good card, and I'm glad to be able to get a few of them into my collection. Of course, you know, we're going to see the color versions of these afterwards, and that just means that I ended up getting a few extra ones because, you know, there's 2 here in the inks and there's going to be 2 in the colors. That means 4 in total. If I want to be able to use them, I'll definitely be able to. Continuing on with our ninjutsu creatures here, we got a little bit of Throat Slitter. Not quite Master Splinter, but, you know, almost there. And it's just a generic rat ninja. 4 and a black, 2/2. With ninjutsu 2 and a black. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, destroy target non-black creature that player controls. So it's if you deal combat damage to a player, well, then you Doomblade them, essentially. Honestly, pretty good. You know, you deal 2 damage, and then you're just saying, yeah, I'm going to destroy one of your creatures too. I like it there. You know, it's just a nice little removal on a creature that is essentially repeatable every single turn if you can swing in with it there. I mean, you got something like, it's like Tetsuo Umezawa or something like that, which has creatures that have power, I think it's like 2 or less, or maybe if it was 1 or less, it doesn't matter. But I think it was 2 or less have unblockable, or you just have different ways that you can make these unblockable. So you're just like, yeah, every turn, just destroy a creature that I don't like. Pretty nice. And we've got one of my little buddies here, a little bit of Gutter Snipe. Not a very friendly buddy, but definitely one that I like running in Spellcaster decks. 2 and a red for a 2/2 Goblin Shaman that whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, this creature deals 2 damage to each opponent. So symmetrical effect there of just everybody takes the damage instead of having to make target player do it. So it's a nice little one. You're casting a whole lot of spells or dishing out a whole lot of damage there. That's what I like to see. And our final bonus sheet card is going to be a Butcher of Malakir. Okay. So we're getting a little bit of good old classic symmetrical die effects from Innistrad there. 5 and double black for a 5/4 Vampire Warrior with flying, and whenever this creature or another creature you control dies, each opponent sacks a creature of their choice. So it's great with some sort of sack outlet for aristocrat style where you're like, okay, you know, I've got these creatures that benefit me if they die. Oh no, I sacked my creature to get a benefit from the sacking of it, whether it's, you know, Phyrexian Tower and you're getting some additional mana, or getting rid of it to Viscera Seer and you're scrying, and then it's like, oh no, now that one of my creatures died, you're going to have to sacrifice one of your own. Oh, that's so bad. That's so sad. But, you know, everybody loses a creature, so it's nice, right? Yeah, it can be a little bit annoying there. And even getting rid of the card itself, it's whenever it or another thing dies, everybody has to sack something. So someone spends a spell to get rid of it there, and then they have to get rid of one of their own things, and then everybody else has to get rid of their own things. It can be pretty impactful there. Up next, like I said, we've got some colors, so now we're going to compare and contrast. I think that the inks were very, very beautiful. So we're going to take a peek at seeing how good these color versions of them are, just to see if they're as good, not as good, or maybe even better than what they were before, because they're going to have all of the intricacies that the previous ones had. It's just that they're going to add in that little bit of color as well. Alrighty. Starting off again with that Loxodon Gatekeeper. I will say that the colors are a little bit muted there. I mean, we are in some sort of shadows there. On the inks, it didn't make the city look a whole lot bigger. So this does make the city look a little bit smaller, but I do like the reds and yellows that they use of it, with essentially the sun hitting it from this angle here, so it makes sense that, hey, you know, all of this is going to be darkened because the sun is not going to be hitting from that side, and the only light that you get is the stuff that's reflected off of the buildings in the background. I think that it's a very good choice of doing the shadowing and the darkness that you see up in the front here. And as a gatekeeper, you probably don't want people to be like, ah, yes, you know, like there's the guard right there. So I like the colors, but I think that the black and white one is better with this because it makes the city look a little bit bigger. Now, Sakashima Student, oh my. Now, I think that I prefer this one over the black and white one. The black and white one was very nice, but I very much like the blues and the greens that they use in this. Like, the big thing of it is Ninja traditionally never wore black because the sky is not completely black, and so you'd be able to spot that silhouette a lot easier than if they were wearing blue, because blue light getting reflected off of the moon there, especially when it's full, so it gives it a little bit better time of trying to blend in. So having the Ninja show up as blue is very nice, and I just really like the pastel colors that are kind of all in the background, or watercolor. I don't know, it's really nice coloring on it there, and I just really dig this colored version as opposed to the black and white. Don't get me wrong, the black and white one is still a really good drawing. It's just I prefer the colors on this as opposed to, like, these are still good colors. These are much better colors. This is like a cool one. And we're also going to get that throat slitter again, coming down out in the middle of nowhere there, you know, making it so that they can't see them, jumping down from on high. I'd say it's about tied there. I really like the reds that it uses on this. With the coloring that they did here, I would say that the character in the foreground is a little bit more, isn't quite as, it's not the like center of focus on this. Like, they're a little bit off to the side, which, I mean, the other one was as well, but the colors, I don't know, don't necessarily bring my eye to the throat slitter itself, which I guess in a way you could say, hey, yes, you know, it's thematic that you're looking at the guard instead. At least my eye first goes to the guard, because they're more in the foreground, and then it goes back because I see the red there and it draws my eye, and that's when I see the actual character that is being portrayed. But so I like the colors there, especially the reds. I just think that the black one lets me see the throat slitter a little bit better in that one than in this one. And then we're getting a little bit of the gutter snipe there. Now, I don't think that the black and white one did this one as much justice. I do like the reds and the greens that this one has. It just, I don't know, feels a little bit more alive with these colors, whereas some of the other ones there just looked cooler in the black and white, especially the Loxodon Gatekeeper. I think I do prefer the gutter snipe here with a bit of color. I don't know, it just pops a little. I think it's because the green and the red contrast each other that it makes the green pop a little bit more, and it just makes it look a little bit more interesting. That's why I dig it. And getting back to that Butcher of Malik here, ooh man, I really like the purples in the background. I am a sucker for purple being my favorite color, so maybe the black and white, you know, you got to see a little bit more detail on the actual character itself, but because there's purple in the background, I'm going to have to go with this. Purple for life, it's one of the best colors out there, so I can't deny that that one just looks really good with that background. All right, so now that we finished up the Kevin Eastman ones, let's go and maybe take a trek on some of the more fantastical, more comical version of it, because we're going to go to this one called VHS Villains, which is going to have a little bit more of the cartoony feel to it. So this makes me, or it reminds me of the old versions of it, and it looks like these might be similar to what you might find on the, I don't know, the VHS covers of these episodes from I'm trying to think that if TMNT, like when they were VHS, when they were on TV, if it came out before my time, I think it did, maybe just by a little bit. Because I can't remember. They must have been like early 90s, maybe late 80s. That would be my guess, but it's just so long ago that it's sometimes hard to remember. So first up here, we're going to have our good old classic of Delver of Secrets. A good old classic from Modern, where Delver was hugely important because it's only 1 blue for a 1/1 human wizard. Now, why is that good? Well, at the beginning of your upkeep, you look at the top card of your library and you may reveal it. If it's an instant or sorcery revealed that way, then you transform it. Well, what do you transform it into? Well, you transform it into this horrendous little insectile aberration, which is just a 3/2 with flying. But think about it, a 1 mana 3/2 with flying. That's obnoxious. That's a big beater that you can get in blue, and then after that point there, you could just say, hey, I've got my 1 big beater that is going to be beating you down over the course of several turns, and all I have to do is counter anything that you have going for you. Yeah, that's pretty annoying. So getting a little bit of, I imagine this character is doing a little bit of the fly action, where it looks like they transform themselves partially into a fly. That is pretty terrifying. I mean, I really like the film for David Cronenberg's version of The Fly, but it's still terrifying nonetheless. Next up, we're going to have a little bit of Shredder Criminal Mastermind, who is going to be a copy of Higure the Still Wind. Very, very good classic ninja. 3 and double blue for a legendary human ninja with ninjutsu 2 and double blue. And whenever Shredder deals combat damage to a player, you may search your library for a ninja card, reveal it, and put in your hand, then shuffle, and you can pay 2, and target ninja creature can't be blocked this turn. So there's a little bit of your making something unblockable. All you need is 2 mana, and you're just saying, hey, look at this, my creature, my ninja can't be blocked, so I'm going to be able to get it in and either use its effect or ninjutsu something else out onto the battlefield. All in all, it's going to be very, very good there. I like the classic Shredder with this purple. Again, like I said, I'm a real sucker for purple, so having it there is super nice. Don't have many copies of Higure, so being able to get more is really nice. And I don't know, sometimes it's nice if you want to troll someone a little bit with something that is, especially using some sort of universe beyond, is an interesting way to do it. So I like the purple Shredder, so being able to get that version of him is nice, and Higure is always a good one there. Next up, we're going to get a little bit of a species specialist. Now, I think that this might have been a Ikoria card, maybe, from like the Ikoria commander decks. This is going to be 2 and double black for a 2/3 human warrior, which is going to have as this creature ETBs. Choose a creature type. Whenever a creature of the chosen type dies, you may draw a card. So mostly you're probably going to have this in your deck so that whenever one of your own creatures die that has some sort of kindred creature type there, that, when they die, you just get that benefit of drawing the card. That's always nice. And it looks like this is Shredder creating Bebop and Rocksteady, because that's a boar and a rhino, which I'm pretty sure that's what they are. So having him show up, I mean, this is the titular card on the art, on the outside art. So I think that is pretty good, especially because I don't think this card has been printed all that much. So I think having it there, especially when we've gotten recently a lot more kindred styles, especially with Lorwyn coming through. We've got, the elves, fairies, tree folk. We've got a lot of different creature synergies of that particular type. Yeah, that can be pretty good, I think. All right. Next up, we're going to have a little bit of Stampeding Brutes, which is going to be a copy of Rampaging Balos. Not the greatest one there. It was included. It was originally pretty decent, and then it got included in a whole lot of Commander precon decks and sort of lost its power. It's been power crept out, but still an interesting one to keep in there for some sort of landfall deck. 4 double green for a 6/6 with Beast with Trample, that landfall whenever a land you control ETBs, you create a 4/4 green Beast creature token. So, landfall, and you make a whole lot of Beast tokens there. It's pretty nice. I mean, kind of goes well with the Balin there of being able to tap the tokens. So this is just by playing lands you get that, and they've already got one there of the Felidar Retreat of you play a land, you get a 2/2, or you make them bigger there. It's not the greatest one, but still nice to get. And we're also going to get a Kang's Android, which is going to be a copy of Triskelion, a 6-mana 1/1 artifact creature construct with this creature ETBs with 3 +1/+1s on it. You remove a +1/+1 from this creature and it deals 1 damage to any target. So a little bit of removal there. I think that this one has also been power crept out a little bit because 6 mana for a 4/4 that can deal 3 damage, but it makes itself smaller, is not necessarily the most impactful thing. But, you got a deck where you might be putting a whole bunch of +1/+1s on things. And if you're able to get a ton of them onto this, then you can start pinging things or pinging people, because you can use it to remove creatures. You can use it to remove the planeswalkers. You can use it to hit players. Do what you need to do with it. I don't think it's the most relevant at the moment. And the bonus card of this one is going to be Piper of the Swarm. Never seen this guy before. I mean, very obvious that he's a reference to the Pied Piper, who controlled rats. 1 and a black for a 1/3 human warlock. With rats you control have menace. Okay. I think that this was in like a... I feel like this was either in like the Return to Ravnica or the Theros block, maybe a core set. I don't know. I feel like I recognize this card. Rats you control have menace. Pay 1 and a black and tap this to create a 1/1 black rat token. Pay 2 and double black and tap this, sack 3 rats to gain control of target creature. It's a little bit slow, got to get a whole bunch of rats out there to be able to utilize those effects there, but essentially being able to take control of an enemy's creature, especially if it's very good, whether it's, just very good in their strategy and you want to take it away so that they can't use it anymore, or if it would be really good with your strategy as well, if it's just generic goodness to just be, say... have it on your field to be attacking in. That's pretty nice. And for the last one that we have here, we have the Mighty Mutimals, which I think is going to have a little bit of a strange artwork. But, we'll see how it is. I think that this one has some interesting cards in it as well. And I guess it was one of these ones that I was like, I'm... Plankton Chip, you want to play a game, don't get that. But this was one of the ones where I was like, man, I'm surprised that this one didn't sell out really quickly because of one of the cards in it. But we'll see. I think that it might be sold out now, or again, could have been taken off the availability list, but I don't know why they would do that. Let's get on in here. Alrighty, so we're gonna have a little bit of Man Ray, Eco Avenger. Man Ray was also the name of the character in SpongeBob SquarePants. I wonder if they've got any sort of relation with each other, like if the Man Ray in SpongeBob was based off of this one here. I don't know. But it's a version of Deep Glow Skate, 4 and a blue for a 3/3 fish, with when this creature enters, double the number of each kind of counter on any number of target permanents. Now, unfortunately, Blight, I think, is in the Jund colors, so unless you are playing, blue and then 2 of those other ones, you couldn't necessarily do it in there, but, something that deals with a lot of +1/+1 counters like the TMNT deck, Commander deck, the Titus deck, a lot of those ones there where you want to put a bunch of counters on things, doubling them up. Pretty good idea. It's a little bit expensive just for a 3/3, but, could still provide a whole lot. If you've got something like Vidalcan Orrery and you're able to flash this in, you could surprise them and essentially wipe someone out. If you're just like, yeah, I'm swinging in and hitting some people, and then you use it as a combat trick almost. That would be nice. Up next, we've got a little bit of Slash, Evil Turtle from Dimension X. No clue. I've never heard of Slash, but they're going to be a copy of Pirated Copy, which is, I think, has had very limited printings as well. I think it came out in a Jumpstart booster, which, sometimes those rares can be pretty hard to come across. 4 and a blue for a 0/0 shapeshifter pirate. You may have this enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield except it's a pirate in addition to its other types, and it has whenever this creature or another creature with the same name deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. Interesting. So it's similar to Sakashima Student where it doesn't copy the name, so you can't use it on a legendary creature on your battlefield unless you want to get rid of the old one there. But I mean, good in pirates, doubling up on particular triggers of something that might have damage or ETB, attacking triggers, something there, or maybe it has a tapping trigger, and then, benefit is whenever this one or the one that you copied deals damage, then you draw a card for each one there. Even if you copy something from your opponent and that creature deals combat damage, this doesn't say that it's a creature you control. It's just this creature or another with the same name deals damage to a player. That means if your opponent swings in and deals damage to a player, even yourself, then you draw a card. Kind of an interesting way to view it there. I'll certainly dig that one there. I'll take another copy of that. And we're also going to get Mondo Gecko Esquire. Okay, it looks like they're doing some radical stunts and knocking out whatever this guy is with a swipe of their skateboard. This is going to be a copy of Kedis Emberclaw Familiar. Not entirely sure where they came from. They're 1 and a red for a 1/1 legendary elemental lizard. Whenever a commander you control deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. Okay. Interesting. So potentially dealing a whole lot of damage between things. So especially if you've got something like a commander that when you deal damage to someone, then or if it's a targeted damage and it doesn't deal damage to each opponent, then you can just say, oh, well, now I do damage to each opponent. And this has got partner, so you can try to partner up with someone. And we're also going to get a little bit of Hardened Scales. Okay, so Hardened Scales is only 1 green mana. So there was that other one that we saw of like Big Score, but I think not Big Score, High Score, which did a similar effect to Hardened Scales, but it was 2 and a green. But it did provide that effect of having the largest power on the battlefield. You get to draw a card at the end of your turn. But I could see that being worthwhile of having it, maybe doing this one as well. I mean, 2 different names, but you get doubling up on the effects there is nice. 1 green for an enchantment. If 1 or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a creature you control, that many +1 are put on it instead. Very nice. And coming up to the card that I thought was going to make this sell out real quickly, Mutimals United, which is going to be a copy of Triumph of the Hordes. An amazing finisher from New Phyrexia. I'm just so surprised that this didn't make things sell out faster. 2 double green for sorcery. Until end of turn, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample and infect. It's a game ender. It finishes games. It's really, really good. Hasn't had a whole lot of printings. Even the uncommon one from the original New Phyrexia booster pack is like $10 or something. So, they've reprinted it only a couple of times. They've had one in the like Fortnite Secret Lair So, you know, having another version of it, especially since I forgot to get the Fortnite one, so I don't actually have Triumph of the Horde. So this is my opportunity of actually getting it for the first time and being able to use it if I wanted to. So yeah, I'm certainly going to take this. And our bonus card is going to be a Intergalactic Wrestling, which looks like some sort of four-armed dog. Very strange. Which is going to be a Possibility Storm. Okay, 3 and double red enchantment. Whenever a player casts a spell from their hand, they exile it. Then they exile cards from the top of their library until they exile a card that shares a card type with it. That player may cast that card without paying its mana cost, and then they put all cards exiled with this enchantment on the bottom of their library in a random order. Yeah, it's a little bit of a weird one there. You know, you don't exactly know what you're going to be casting unless you've got some sort of top deck manipulation, or you can see what's on the top of your deck, so you can be like, oh, I'm going to play this because I know what's going to come next. You know, would be nice there. You know, just an interesting little one from, again, I think that was from one of the Ravnica blocks there, but an interesting little one there, and certainly Triumph of the Hordes is definitely an awesome one. Pirated Copy is also an awesome one there. All in all, again, I don't know too much about TMNT, but what I will say is I think that there was a lot of good cards that they included in this. Triumph of the Hordes, what was that one there? Pirated Copy, Species Specialist. I like Loxodon Gatekeeper, Sakashima's Student, Mental Misstep. Like, there's some good cards that they included in these that I'm glad that they did. And hey, you know, this is like the first one where we haven't had a Soul Ring or an Arcane Signet. So honestly, I'm kind of glad that they gave us a little bit of a break with that. And I like myself some other artworks for them, but we don't need an Arcane Signet and Soul Ring or basic lands in every single new Secret Lair drop. We will see some of those in the Fallout and in the D&D ones that came around, and even in some of the little bonus Chaos Vault ones, but we'll get to those when we get to them. Overall, you know, I'm happy with these. I think that there's a lot of good artwork. There's plenty of good cards in these as well, and I'm really glad to be able to add them to my collection. You know, I don't know if there's any, like, super bonus card that I might have missed, but, you know, I'm glad with what I got, and, you know, getting a little extra copies of some of the ones that I really thought that I would enjoy. So thanks for joining me on this one. Aloha. Take care of yourself. I'll see you on the next one. Have a good afternoon, evening, or night. I'll see you there.